it comes and goes in ebbs and flows with phytonutrients and particularly with things like lectins and so forth. And I like right from the beginning for me, that's been something that clients have come to me and asked me about. But I'll see it in waves, and I feel like it's like as you said, the peacocking. I love that, or the clickbait. If it's going to be used in that way, I think ongoingly. But what I would say to it is, again, it comes back to the individual. There's a reason why some people are more reactive to phytates and lectins. And I have some clients that I need to be considerate of this with, but it comes back to your health and your individual gut health. So if you have a healthy, robust gut and overall good health, you don't need to worry about phytates and lectins and anti-nutrients, because they're in everything as far as like whole food goes. So if you're going to worry about them, you might want to like move to a carnivore diet, which isn't a very good decision to make, which we obviously could get into, but it sounds like you have another podcast. But what I'm getting at is
no other podcast.
Okay. So the thing is that if you have problems...
Sorry, I thought you meant after this.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, with Dan. It sounds like you talked about it with Dan. But like,
I think by all means, like, we didn't cover everything. We just covered microbial testing and how it can lead to being pro-inflammatory. So it's probably very different in terms of what the, or maybe you'd be aware of that as well. But
absolutely. Well, like, firstly, if you have someone who fundamentally does have problem with phytates and lectins, they will have chronic gut health issues. So they're having but we will see this with functional testing, but usually there'll be some form of like overactivated gut immune response. There might be some form of gut permeability going on, and that's at a pretty serious level to start being triggered by these phytates and lectins. So it's a small part of a chronic gut health space, but the problem is, and this is what I see all the time, whether it's this or other areas to do with extremism, someone's had success with that. They're like, this made me feel better, so therefore it must work for everyone. And the scary thing is when that person now gets a platform. So that might be the average person that's like, oh my God, this cured me. This must be what everyone needs to do. And sometimes that's just through conversation, where I'll be talking to a client and they're like, oh, my auntie told me she did this and it worked for her, so should I do it? But now it's in a social media space where it's bigger, and we've got influencers saying, well, I cut this out and it worked for me, so it should be for everyone. Or even scarier, we've got practitioners, to go back to the ego, who have made changes, because a lot of practitioners come to this space with their own issues. They've made that change and like, this is the golden nugget. Everyone needs to avoid these foods. And that's dangerous, because then they start layering their kind of practitioner hat on top. So then we have this kind of like expectation of everyone needs to eat this way. So it really does my head in and angers me when I see that, whether it is this sort of anti-nutrient space versus to go to carnivore, because from a carnivore perspective, we can do the same thing, where we've got that extremism of someone feeling better from a chronic gut health space and a chronic potentially autoimmune space that is driven by very poor gut health. And they feel better because they've cut out all fiber, any fuel at all for their gut microbiome. So that in turn isn't feeding the adverse growth patterns that are going on. So they're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. So again, they're like, this is the golden nugget. Everyone needs to do this. Oh my God, fruit and veggies are bad. It's obvious. Let's burn them all.